This small tip is gonna take your pork game to another level. This is how to make country style pork ribs. Today we're using our Gateway drum smoker. I have my basket completely full with lump charcoal. And in order to get this to 300 degrees, which I think is optimal, I'm gonna go ahead and light a few charcoal starters. The next thing we'll do is open our intakes all the way. And at this point, we'll wait around 15 to 20 minutes. Our charcoal's gonna get nice and hot. We'll close the lid and then we'll get it set to 300 degrees. Today for our country style pork ribs, you guys can see that these are already pre-cut. All that this is strips of pork cut out of a pork butt. And when I'm at the store, all I'm looking for is some really nice marbling running through this pork. And when I'm talking about marbling, I'm talking about these fat striations that are running through the meat. So you're gonna see that there is fat that's around and in between these muscles, but the fat that we're looking for is these little white striations that runs through the actual pink portion of the pork. That right there is gonna make for a much more flavorful bite of pork because it has that fat running through it. Once you render it out, it does become a nice portion of the bite of this meat. So we're gonna go over top with our Southern Belle. This is actually our beef rub, but I like it because it has that black pepper, which I've talked about is beautiful in barbecue, at least to me. So we're gonna go over top with Southern Belle. And then on top of that, we're gonna go over top with a light layer of Southern Hospitality. Now, because we're cooking on the drum today, I always like to be really careful about how much sweet barbecue seasonings I'm putting on. It is a harsh environment. It's a great cooker, but a harsh environment, and I don't wanna burn anything. So you wanna make sure to do the same exact thing on all sides. Southern Belle, and then we're gonna come over top with Southern Hospitality. Again, that's gonna be a lighter layer than my Southern Belle for sure. Around 20 minutes later, I've got a decent bed of coals that are nice and hot, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the lid on. And we're gonna do the same exact thing to the top stack. We're gonna keep this wide open. Now, typically I would put a water pan inside of my 55-gallon drum, but today it's raining outside and there's water everywhere, so I don't feel that I need to. I've done this enough time to where I've noticed if it's raining outside or if there's water all over the place, there will be too much humidity inside of the smoker if I actually add a water pan. So today we're not going to, but if you guys want to or don't want to, you gotta make all these recipes your own. These are just tips and guidelines. Once we're right at around 300 degrees on our drum smoker, it's time to close our vents. So I'm just gonna go ahead and close maybe about 1/4 of an inch, and that's gonna be perfect. We're gonna do this on both sides, and then we're just gonna make sure our temps stabilize for the rest of the cook. Now at this point, even though we've hit our target temperature, you definitely wanna check on your temps and make sure that they stay the same throughout the whole cook. It can fluctuate up or down, and you can adjust as needed, but hopefully we're good to go. I'm just gonna go ahead and put these directly onto my Gateway drum, and if you guys can hear it, it's just a light sizzle here. We're around 300 degrees, and that's gonna be perfect for our country style pork ribs. So what I'm looking to do here is build nice color. You guys can see that we have plenty of heat. We are gonna rotate these every 30 minutes or so because you can see the fire is concentrated towards the front, and that's where those two vents are. But for now, we're just gonna let these catch some smoke. We'll flip them in a little bit. Right at 30 minutes, it's time to check our pork. You can see the color is looking really good. What I'm gonna do is just go ahead and rotate this. Now we got those pieces that were closer to the fire towards the backside and then opposite on the other pieces. So the color is looking really good. It's pretty much exactly where I want. You can see the bottom of these is getting a really, really nice color. So what I'm actually gonna do is go ahead and flip these over now. And we're gonna let this rock and roll for another 30 minutes. It might be time to wrap at that point. It might not. We'll have to check. It's been another 30 minutes. Drum is still running right at 300 degrees. You can see that our pork is looking really, really good. So kind of like I was talking about just a little bit ago, this will get color pretty quickly. So it's been an hour. If I put my finger on the pork, you can see that none of the rub is coming off. There's plenty of moisture still on top of my meat, so I feel really, really good about the way that this cook is going. So now that the color is looking good on my pork, I'm just gonna go ahead and move it out of the way real quick. And I'm gonna put a pan of butter here. Then we're gonna get our pork and we're gonna start putting it right inside. This is actually a pretty small pan, so it's gonna be a tight fit. I should have gotten something a little bit bigger, but it's gonna work out all good. The wife saved the day. She actually had a larger pan. So we're gonna go right in with our pork. And this is gonna be the perfect size, I think. So good save there. All right, so we got some butter in. That's gonna melt down here in just a few minutes. We're gonna go right over top with some Killer Hogs vinegar sauce. Just a drizzle. And then we're gonna go right over top of that as well with some apple soda. If you guys have followed the channel for a little bit, you actually probably remember that I used to use this apple soda on my pork pretty much every single cook. It is probably one of my favorite tasting sodas of all time. Haven't had it in a while, so just wanted to use it today. I'm also gonna cut this with just a little bit of water. I got roasted the other day for using bottles of water for a brine, so today I'm using tap. And then, just simple as can be, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up with some foil. Close it right up. And now we're just gonna cook these to tenderness. You'll notice that I don't have a probe in there, but we're gonna check these in about an hour. I am gonna rotate consistently as well. Don't forget that that fire is concentrated towards the front where we have our stacks, so I do wanna rotate everything. We also wanna make sure that we maintain our temperatures at 300 or a little bit lower now. We wanna use that liquid wrap here in just a little bit to bring some back of that porkiness flavor, especially if we're gonna use a barbecue sauce here in a bit. It's been 2.5 hours on our country style pork ribs, and now we wanna take a look for tenderness. Don't forget, we didn't have any probes in there. I'm just going based off of what I know in the past when it comes to these country style pork ribs. It is pork butt, but they are cut into strips, so this should go pretty quickly. Get my drum open, take this out. I'll go ahead and pull the foil back. You can see there's plenty of steam. And one of my favorite things about using this apple soda is as soon as I open this foil, I can smell that apple come right out of this wrap. That apple scent just gives me the sensation that I've put good flavor on this pork. And of course, now we have to check for tenderness. So obviously I showed you guys earlier, there's a lot of fat running through there. If I probe that fat, like that's fat right there, I could tell, it gives absolutely zero resistance. That's not where you want to probe. You want to probe the actual meat. You can see right now we're around 209 degrees. Feels really good, 210 here. A little bit of resistance, but that's okay. These feel really, really good. So we're gonna go ahead and get these off, take them inside, and we'll finish these up. Okay, now we're inside with our pork, and we have all of this au jus remaining in this foil pan. You guys know that I've been kind of doing this recently, and I'm gonna do it again. So we're gonna drain all of this au jus into a grease separator. So this has natural pork renderings, apple soda, and some butter in it. Oh, and don't forget that Killer Hogs barbecue sauce. So this is just flavor galore. And recently, this is why I've been talking about holding temps even after you wrap, because we want to make sure that this still tastes good. If you get it too hot, you can burn all those sugars and make this really bitter, and then you can't apply it back in the end. And I think that natural flavor that you get that pulls out of the pork, or if you're doing beef or anything, just adds for a really complimentary taste, especially with a good barbecue sauce. So don't forget, once you wrap, make sure you maintain your temps, or you can even drop them down a little bit if you've got extra time. Now that everything's nice and separated, I'm gonna get 1/4 cup of this beautiful au jus, pour it in, and at this point I want to taste it real quick. That has a beautiful sweet flavor. I can taste porkiness, a little bit of that barbecue sauce, the butter, and the apple soda. This turned out perfect. And now I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of Killer Hogs vinegar sauce. I think vinegary sauce goes perfect with pork. I like it on my ribs, I like it on my pork butt, so that's what we're going with today. We're gonna go ahead and mix this together. And you can see once everything is mixed, this is the consistency I have. It's much thinner than a barbecue sauce because of that au jus, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. We don't like a thick sauce, but we do want it to complement. Now it's back onto the smoker with our pork, taking it out of the pan now. At this point, you need to be really careful with it. It is very soft. And then we're instantly gonna go over top with our mixture of au jus and sauce. Now at this point, all we're doing is waiting for that glaze to set. This should take around 5 to 7 minutes. Around 5 minutes later, we're gonna go ahead and take our pork off. Like I said a second ago, it's really, really soft, so be careful. Country style pork ribs are done. They feel extremely tender in my hand. And now, of course, it's time to take a bite. So soft, so succulent. The flavor that comes through with that sauce and that au jus combo is truly out of this world. I hope that it comes through on camera just how tender that actually is. I get that apple flavor from that soda, and that is just one of my favorite flavors of all time. You might not be able to find that exact apple soda, but I guarantee you if you find a good one, add it to your pork wrap, and it just brings so much delicious flavor. In the end, I definitely think saving your au jus and adding it to any sauce or just adding it back to your proteins in general is a power play. It's not necessarily a secret. I know I talk about it like it is, but a lot of people are doing it. I think they just don't tell everybody exactly what they're doing because it's kind of something that you'll learn when you're doing competition barbecue. I think that it can apply to backyard barbecue just to add that good flavor. And of course, this one was a 10 out of 10. You absolutely got to try it. As always, we really appreciate you guys tuning into this video. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.